Texans win yesterday. Colts lose yesterday. AFC South champs, Brian.
Yeah.
As a once average coach stated following a Brock Osweiler-led Texans team clinching a division. AFC South champs, second year in a row, Brian.
It was, a lot of Texans victories this year have been a little bit unsatisfying. You just have hard not to think about this or that. Yeah. Yesterday, I could make a book case for yesterday's win being unsatisfying because the offense actually didn't do much at all.
Right.
And yet, I think, and I'm trying to check the vibes of the fan base and whatnot, and I don't know about how you feel about it from the postgame show where you get a lot of calls. I think for me, and maybe other people feel this way, I watched yesterday's performance and I thought, you know what? All right, the offense is what it is, but if maybe this can be one of those teams like the Lovie Smith Bears where you ride an opportunistic defense that forces turnovers and just is a different type of football team, but every now and then it works in the playoffs.
That's going to have to be what it is.
Yeah, right.
There's no choice. That's if you choose to be optimistic, that's the only route you can take right now.
Yeah. They'll get optimistic as far as how far can they go in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that defense. Look, man, Derek Stingley, awesome, good job. The defensive player of the week to you. Yesterday for me, as we talked about all week, one of the big tests was going to be, okay, Kalen Bullock has been awesome for a rookie. He's really got to start playing like a veteran safety. And man, that's exactly what he did yesterday. Aside from the PBU that could have been a pick, and then on the next series, kind of duping Tua with a similar look defensively, he's able to pounce on that and get a near pick six. Man, Achane is fast. Achane. But then in the second half, the Texans were playing single high the whole time, and like with your rookie safety back there. And they did a great job. They limited the explosive. Longest for the Dolphins yesterday was 21 yards. So for me, okay, you're still down Azeez Elshire, but you've also got Kalen Bullock at safety that's playing more like a veteran safety.
Yeah, and you got Christian Harris back yesterday, and Christian Harris played. I haven't seen the snap counts yet. It felt like he was out there a lot because he was around the ball quite a bit. He was around
the ball a lot, and he took out one of the sideline crew at one point with such speed that I thought for sure that guy was goner. But kudos to him, whoever you are.
Hey,
he
man,
popped right up and got back in the game.
He's got to shake off the rust somehow. If you lose a random sideline guy in the process.
Those are the two things yesterday where it just caught my eye and it took my attention away from the action was, one, Achane, like a fighter jet coming in out of nowhere
to tackle Bullock.
I saw his Bullock. Maybe I don't know how it looked on TV, but from above, you could see how fast Achane was moving. It was crazy. That was fast. And then Christian Harris on that play where he was flying to the sideline. He was moving so fast to the sideline that I ignored the action on the field and I saw him take out that sideline crew guy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
He looked good. He looked good yesterday. That was a microcosm of what the Texan season has been. You're absolutely right, Seth. They're going to go as far as the defense and the special teams. Special teams were excellent yesterday. Right. I'm not just talking about the fake punt. Like overall, coverage teams, Kaimi Fairbairn, Tommy Townsend, top to bottom special teams were excellent yesterday too.
The little asterisk I'll put on there is, okay, if you could just stay on sides on that field goal attempt.
Oh, MJ Stewart. And he's done. Stewart got more penalties on special teams this year.
Yeah, he had the false start on the fake punt a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, when they were kind of lining up to.
Yeah. So, but other than that, and MJ Stewart had that illegal defensive blocking. Where was that?
Yesterday?
That
was Eric Murray.
That was Eric Murray.
That was Murray,
right.
yeah.
Excuse me, MJ Stewart. I apologize.
We're not going to give you all the penalties.
And then I heard that MJ Stewart was responsible for all kinds of. Yeah.
So there's a lot of storylines with this. Obviously, the biggest one is that the Texans are AFC South champs. They will be going to the postseason again. At worst case, they're the 4 seed. They picked up a game on the Steelers yesterday, who are the 3 seed right now. And as you've pointed out, Seth, the Steelers play a hellacious schedule down the stretch. Well, I say they play a hellacious schedule. They play the same teams the Texans do, practically. They play the Chiefs and the Ravens also in that little round robin that we've got coming up over the next few days. So division champs. Let's give the obviously not just the defense kudos, but DeMeco Ryans. Man, two division championships in his first 2 years. This has been a harder year, I think, probably, maybe in press conferences and things like that, because the offense has been so underwhelming. They're doing this kind of the flip of what everybody thought it was going to be at a 30,000-foot level before the season. When they traded for Diggs and brought in Joe Mixon, the thought was, man, this is going to be an incredible offensive fireworks display, and whatever happens with the defense happens with the defense. It's been the opposite of that. If it's possible to have fireworks on defense, they've had fireworks on defense this year, including yesterday. They had 3 sacks. They came at one of them was just a shove out of bounds of Tua, but the other 2 sacks were massive in the game. The Will Anderson strip sack fumble, and then the Danielle Hunter sack on the second to last drive that made it 2nd and 25 and squelched that drive.
Yeah.
The Dolphins got one more bite at the apple, but Derek Stingley extinguished that on the very first play, and that's the other big story, man. Stingley, he's not on any of those charts for Defensive Player of the Year right now, any of the odds boards, but you'd have a hard time finding a cornerback who's playing better football, I would imagine.
No,
right
and when you look at the stats of how many times he was targeted, how many yards he allowed, it was like one of the better performances this season by any defensive back.
Yeah, I love that all 3 interceptions yesterday, they were targeting Tyreek Hill.
And Tyreek Hill, and definitely on the second one, Tyreek Hill might be wondering to himself, maybe I was wrong about Pat Mahomes not having as good ball placement as Tua Tagovailoa.
There's that.
Well, no, the second one, I would say the first one, because the second one, he had the ball in his hands.
He had the ball.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The second one, I think Tyreek Hill thought he was catching that
Good
ball.
call. Yeah, he had it.
He had it, yeah.
Stingley's he's strong. Yeah, he's not a big dude.
No.
But he's strong, man. He's just got he tracks the ball so well.
Yeah.
He should be every fan's dream, because the thing that drives fans the craziest is when a defensive back doesn't turn and look for the ball.
Yeah.
And the simple answer for why defensive backs don't do that more easily is because it's really, really hard.
Yes.
Stingley makes it look like he's the intended receiver.
It's incredible.
It's really like he knows exactly where it's coming down, and a lot of times he just has a better feel for it than the receiver himself.
We had him on the postgame show yesterday, and he's not only talkative. He was as talkative yesterday afternoon in the postgame show as I've ever heard him.
Yeah. Little chatty Cathy. Did you call him that?
Was chat.
Here you go. Take that championship belt, you chatty Cathy.
Yeah, here's some other antiquated references for you, Derek Stingley. This is what jumped out at me. Maybe we'll get this audio for later in the show. I asked him to take us through each of the interceptions. I don't know if you had a chance to hear it or not, Seth. I asked him to take us through each of the interceptions and the degree of detail to which he went in reading how Tyreek Hill was lined up.
Yeah.
What he was expecting in that particular situation, the leverage, like he's describing it, and I was like, man, this dude is an intellectual cornerback.
Oh yeah. He's really
super smart.
There's one thing about Stingley, and because he's quiet and he's not gonna throw up a bunch of Instagrams showing how hard he's working and everything. You and I know from being out at practice every morning, he's out there beforehand, and then he's out there if it's 103 degrees, and he's out there with a receiver or two every single day working on stuff.
Yeah.
at the end of practice. Yeah.
Yep. He was he was very impressive with us in the post game. And then he was touting Kalen Bullock for Pro Bowls and Rookie of the Year. And I'm like, well, what about you, man? You're having a good year. He's like, oh, my footwork and this and that. And I'm like, oh, now I know why they love you so much over there.
Yeah, and Kalen Bullock, honestly, he's been a revelation. I forget a lot of times that Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock are rookies. Even as Kamari Lassiter less so, but Kalen Bullock, all those things where for a safety, you can play really, really well by the book, but the thing that makes you a really good safety is anticipating where the soft spots are going to be, where somebody might have made a mistake, understanding. And I feel like he's really starting to get a feel for that stuff. And on both those plays inside of 2 minutes in the first half, kudos to D'Amico and Matt Burke for really all day shifting the coverages, changing it at the snap, but then Kalen understanding and being aware of where the opportunity was without taking any extra risks to do it. That was a great performance out of Kalen Bullock.
It was a great performance out of Bullock and the defense as a whole, and you're absolutely right. The Dolphins were supposed to be the team that was confusing everybody with all the eye candy.
Right.
The Texans, I thought, did a really good job of saying, oh, we'll confuse the hell out of you.
They bid on no eye candy.
No eye candy, man.
They didn't. They were like, let me see your ID before I bite on that play. No, I'm not taking you to that dance, young lad.
We've not talked about the offense at all in the open here. I promise you that we will, because I know there's people out there frustrated with it. They did what they needed to do yesterday with the room service opportunities that they got. They scored points. I will say this, the Dolphins running the ball on first down so much and getting into 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, this feels really good. Oh, yeah, that's how it feels when other teams are going against the Texans all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, every time they're running the football, it feels like a gift from the heavens.
Right. Yeah, and the Dolphins haven't been running the ball well. And, yeah, that's one of the other big stories yesterday was, obviously, you got Titus Howard at left guard. You've got Blake Fisher at right tackle. I was pleased early on to see that the Texans didn't have to give Blake Fisher a whole lot of help. I mean, and through the first 3 quarters, he played really well. That sack that he gave up, he didn't give up that sack that Chop Robinson got. He had done a good job blocking him, and then CJ escapes the pocket, and then Chop Robinson gets it on the scramble drill. Yeah. Then in the fourth quarter, I think the holding call, I believe, was in the fourth quarter.
I think it was
Blake
too,
Fisher,
yeah.
Or at least late in the third quarter. And then he allowed that sack on Chop Robinson, and I didn't realize it until watching on the TV copy. I'm pretty sure that Chop Robinson was offsides on that. It was,
he got a big jump.
He got at least a full step into the backfield.
Yes.
And that's Blake Fisher did well for what my expectations
were. Happy with Blake Fisher this morning.
He had a couple of plays. The biggest guy I was worried about versus him was Calais Campbell because he's so strong.
Yeah.
And Blake Fisher still kind of looks like a teenager. And I thought he held up pretty well versus Calais Campbell.
All right, Texans are AFC South champs.